Did you know? World of Warcraft's iconic dwarven city Ironforge was originally designed to have 2 levels in height. The alpha test version of World of Warcraft shows this 2-layer construction, but by the time the game hit beta it had been changed to just 1 main layer. Also in the alpha version of World of Warcraft, the Great Forge was very different to the one that players see today. It was first designed to be a very tall construction, which game testers could walk around, and was nothing at all like the lava forge that people use today. In the Cataclysm expansion to World of Warcraft, an area opened up within Ironforge called Old Ironforge, and if players went down there, they would see Magni Bronzebeard, who had turned into Diamond in an effort to save Ironforge from disaster. This whole area can be found in the alpha code of World of Warcraft, although in the alpha version testers would have to take a lift down to the area. The rest of Old Ironforge, however, is almost the same as when it was introduced in the Cataclysm expansion. Before the game's release, the game contained another minor profession, which was called survival skills. This profession allowed the player to make campfires and torches, but was scrapped and changed for the game's release. A player that leveled up in survival skills could make 2 types of campfire. The first was called basic campfire, which gave the player or party a place to cook and a small spirit buff. The other was called bright campfire, which also works as a place to cook but gave a player or party a larger spirit buff. The campfires were designed for players to use in between fights so they could regenerate health quicker. Campfires did make it to the final release of World of Warcraft, but were learnt when a player took up cooking as a profession. Also, up until the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, players needed flint and timber to create a campfire. However, once the Wrath of the Lich King expansion was released, the campfire no longer gave them the spirit buff. As well as campfires, the survival skills profession also allowed players to create torches that allowed them to see areas that would otherwise be too dark to see anything on the screen. Darkshore was one of the areas in the game where a torch would be needed if a player wanted to explore. This is why so many NPCs in the Darkshore area all carry torches. Some weapons in the game also doubled up as torches, and these made it to the final game, although the idea of not being able to see in the dark without a torch was scrapped. Did you know that World of Warcraft contains many pop culture references? There is a flower merchant in the floating city of Dalaran called Arif Primrose, who is a reference to the Final Fantasy VII character Ares Gainsborough. The World of Warcraft NPC wears a very similar outfit to that of the Squaresoft character. In Bittertide Lake there is a small island that has a hatch on its sandy floor. On the hatch there are the numbers 5, 9, 16, 17, 24 and 43, which are the same numbers as the hatch in the TV show Lost, but with an increment of 1 on each number. There is a bar in Lower Shattrath City, and inside there is an NPC called Harris Pilton, who is a reference to Paris Hilton, the famous heiress and socialite. There is even an achievement in-game for buying her bag. One of the most rarest items in World of Warcraft is a cooking recipe called Dodgy's Kicking Chamrock Chops. The item can fetch extremely high prices on the in-game auction house if a player is selling it. The reason for its rarity is not only is it the only epic bind-on-equip cooking recipe in the game, which could only be earned after completing a very long questline, but it was made no longer available to earn once the Cataclysm expansion was released. The questline, as well as many of the creatures that you had to kill it and the places you had to go to earn the item, were removed once the Cataclysm expansion came out. So, if you don't have it, the only way to obtain it now is to find a player that completed the quest prior to December 2010 and kept the recipe in their inventory. It is believed only a handful of these recipes still exist these days, so the auction house price for this item is very, very high. In September 2005, the Corrupted Blood incident hit World of Warcraft. The Corrupted Blood incident was a glitch that turned into a virtual plague. The epidemic started with the release of the new raid area called Zul'Gurub and its boss called Hakkar. Hakkar could cast a spell called Corrupted Blood, which would drain a player's hit points and was highly contagious. Although the spell was only designed to affect players while in the new raid area, players soon discovered that through teleportation they could take the infection out of the raid encounter and into the rest of the game. What happened next mirrored a real-life epidemic. The plague hit the game's capital cities and infected players as well as NPCs who acted as carriers of the disease. The streets of places like Ironforge were littered with the bodies of the dead, as the plague was pretty much instant death for many lower leveled characters. Players reacted in many different ways. Some abandoned the main cities and stayed in the relative safety of the countrysides and forests. A few players deliberately brought the disease to uninfected areas. Other players volunteered their services as healers and would direct players away from infected areas. The incident was a fascinating model of research for some epidemiologists, as many players reacted to the plague as if there was a real danger to their well-being and not just the minor inconvenience that death plays in World of Warcraft. Players at the time called it the most fantastic world event, although the whole thing was an unplanned glitch from the game creator Blizzard. Well, that's it for me today, and if you enjoyed this, you should check out the real Did You Know Gaming. I'm going to put a annotation for that on the screen here, or if you liked what I've been doing here, why not check out some of my videos as well. I do a great World of Warcraft series comparing the original vanilla experience to the brand new, not so good in my opinion, Mr. Pandaria, and that's really good, so check that out. Check out both, they're both really good, everything's great, just check them all out. Bye bye!